Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about watercolor pencil sets that I will never recommend. Now I know I did a video on ones that I can't recommend, but I had my reasons for why. These are ones I will never recommend, and I have my reasons for why, but yeah, these will never make any of my top 3 lists or anything like that, whereas the other ones would have, but there was just that one little tidbit. So we're going to go through each of these and kind of explain why they won't make the cut or ever make any of my top 3. Like I said, I've been doing tons of watercolor pencil testing. I haven't even taken a final count. I still have a massive pile that hasn't even made it into videos because they're falling under different categories, but I wanted to get out of the way the ones that won't be in there, and you'll be quite surprised at some of these choices, so let's go. First things first, we have the Pentel watercolor pencils. Now, I had bought these to put them in the budget category, and boy, are they a freaking budget pencil. They are not impressive in the slightest. They were just awful when I got them, but I will show you, how they look here. So you get a 24 count set. I mean, this is like budget of budget, but Crayola does better than Pentel. I will, however, because I was asked, I will do a versus between Pentel and Crayola and do a side-by-side, so there's still that video to come, lots of them. It is nice they have them numbered, so, you know, if you want to number them, I guess. But when it comes to the way they dissolved, the pencil lead is very, very weird and scratchy. In every single pencil, I've sharpened them, I've tried something else. It's almost like there's something inside the core of each one that just, I don't know. It's the oddest thing. And that's what I noticed when I first went to swatch these. I thought, what the heck is going on here? And then when it came to dissolving, they dissolve great, especially for a budget pencil, but it just wasn't there, and it still leaves lines because of that weird stuff in the core. So that unfortunately made me go, you know what? These will probably never make a top 3, because even in the budget category, I do have pencils that are doing better performance-wise. So yeah, but I will do a versus of Pentel versus Crayola. You know what I meant. But let's move on. All right, Winsor & Newton's watercolor pencils. I would like to just say something to those folks at Winsor & Newton. Guys, stick to your lane and what you know. You guys make amazing watercolors in tube and pan format, but when it comes to pencil, go away. Because not only were their watercolor pencils bad, but they also tried to just make regular coloring pencils, and oof, those were awful. Now, it comes in this little tray here. This is just the set of 24, which, by the way, you don't need a ton of colors when it comes to watercolor pencils. They did waste it with a white, but I want to show you the swatches here. Look at this palette. It is very muted. Not muted. That's not the right word. It's just bleh. We've got 2 colors here that are so close to one another, but when they activated, there was they're like 2 beiges. You've got this gray that barely has any pigment. Of course, you've got your white. You've got 2 yellows that are practically right next to each other. These oranges that are right next to each other. So yeah, for a 24 count, you've got a lot of similar colors going here. So when it comes to color mixing, because that's what you're going to have to do when you have fewer pencils as opposed to 120 Albrecht Dürrs, you're going to have to mix. This is a gray. These 2 beiges, I don't know what they were doing. The pink washed out like no other. I mean, these blues were okay, but yeah, I just was not impressed with these at all. And the price tag on these is ridiculous. So they won't make it into any of my top 3 categories at all. Okay, now every brand is going to have its reasons for why it won't make the top list or my recommendations. Spectrum Noir has a few reasons. Spectrum Noir's Aqua Blend is similar to their Color Blend pencils. You buy them in themed sets. So I bought the Florals one because I do a lot of watercolor florals outside of adult coloring. So that's what I picked. But if I wanted to, get in a variety of any other colors, I would need to buy the other curated sets. So they're made just like the Color Blend pencils, just they're blue for aqua. They have pretty names and all that. Really thick cores, actually, and these cores didn't break on me like the Color Blends, so I guess I should be thankful there. But yeah, so this is that 24 set floral, but here's the problem, florals. When you think of florals, what do you think? You've probably got some pinks, oranges, yellows, maybe some blues, definitely greens, right? Because florals need greens of some kind. Well, here's the color palette in this floral set. I am just sitting here with tons of anywhere from violet to blue violet to pinks to some yellows, one red-ish. It's not even a true red. An orange. I was sitting here thinking, what the heck? And these weren't cheap either. So these are pretty expensive for the 24 pencils you get. And then you just get colors that are so close to one another. You really can't do anything with this set unless you want to do a whole fun little monochrome thing. But where's the green? So to get greens, I actually have to go purchase a different curated set, which is one reason their color blends, their colored pencil series, is such a pain in the butt to get. Well, they did the same with this. So the fact that you can't just buy them all at once and you're stuck with these curated sets, and then the colors of the curated set, which are just make no sense, and then the cost, it's just not worth it. So, one gal's opinion. Okay, these Sargent Art pencils are kind of similar situation to Pentel Arts. They are affordable, though I think Sargent Arts likes to kind of bump the price a little bit because they're Sargent Art, and I don't know, they want to act like big boys. But I had a similar issue when it came to scratchy cores. Like, can you hear that? I'm not even pressing heavy and it's scratchy. Now, scratchy core isn't always a big problem as long as it dissolves. Only it doesn't dissolve. So that was where I was like, goodness gracious. And this is every pencil in here other than the yellows and a few select colors, but yep, they wouldn't dissolve. So, Sargent Art, I would change these to colored pencils and not call them watercolor. But they will never make the list because not only are they scratchy, but they don't dissolve. Alright, now we have another budget brand, the Xena Color. I got this 24 count set. It's what you would expect for a budget set. That said, the color selection was a little wacky. It was kind of cool though. They gave you this on a thick cardstock, not watercolor paper. It came with a cheap brush. They did waste a space with white again. But overall, I just was not impressed with the pencils. They were scratchy. They weren't very pleasant to use. And then here's the color palette for these Xena Color ones. We're missing some things here. Again, we've got, for 24 colors, I expect to see nothing that's too close. Because you have 24 colors, so you need to be able to mix and, create something new. But also, the biggest thing is, look, dissolving. A lot of these did not want to dissolve. You see the lines? I got lines everywhere. So that was the biggest thing. If it's not going to dissolve, what's the point? So unfortunately, Xena Color, bye-bye. Alright, we have the Korilynn VanDyke Fan Color. These are not to be confused with Supra Color. Those are two different things. This is just a 40 count set. It is cheaper than Supracolor, but it's still pretty pricey, especially here in the US. And overall, it just wasn't impressive. But to top it off, they included metallics in their watercolor pencils. Very rarely do you see that. And trust me, they did not dissolve well. But yeah, overall, the pencil was just, it's like Korilynn VanDyke's attempt at a budget pencil. I don't know what they were doing here, but it's still well made in comparison to some, the others I've shown you. But when I went to play around with them, here's this right here, these 40 count swatches. You have a lot of overlapping colors. Again, that's like a theme going on. But it was also the dissolving. Some did not dissolve very well. As you can see up here, we've got some dissolving issues. You got the lines. Lines, I'd have to like add extra water and they still wouldn't dissolve. Still got lines there. Lines up in here. And then just the overall color palette. Again, if you're going to throw out a small color palette, you need more balance, right? I get they throw in the white for those who want to add a white accent, or if you want to mix it on a palette and make a pastel, but you don't need white ever in a set. Just put it on a palette and water it down and you'll get the pastel effect, and then you won't have the chalky effect of adding PW6, which is what is used for most whites, titanium white. Now here's those two rando metallics. Are they metallic when they dissolve? Nope. So it was a complete waste of space of those two pencils. They could have thrown in a green or even a better red, because I kind of feel like I'm sitting here going, where's the reds? So yeah, unfortunately the fan color won't make any list. Still a good pencil though. It's just it has its flaws. All right. Now this one is hard to put in here because it's actually not a bad pencil. But availability wise, it took me a while to get my hands on these. And then when you compare it to all of the other pencils I have in this competition, the Stabilo Aquacolor just don't fit into any category, unfortunately. But they should probably get an honorable thanks for participating. You know what? This is a time where a participation trophy is okay. Ta-da! Overall, you get 36 pencils. Ugh, let's get that bad boy open. Again, we're wasting space with the white, but that's just personal peeve of mine. Some people really like the white, but I ask you, how often do you use the white in your pencil collection? So here you go. Color dipped in, well-made product. Stabilo is actually a good brand. In fact, the Stabilo Woodies I used in a like watercolor crayon battle. Those things are amazing. I love those. But it's just these won't make a top 3. That said, out of everything I've shown you so far, they're still an impressive product. So I can't recommend them in a top 3, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're awful. Their color range is a lot better. There's 36 colors, and they were a lot smarter with the balance of their colors. They added in olivey greens, bright greens, blue greens, blue violets. You've got some purples going on. You've actually got a real red. You don't have overlapping colors for once. No metallics. Yes, they wasted a white. They have the most unique purplish color here, though. Isn't that cool? I really liked that color. If anything, I would almost take like a few colors from this set that are missing from my Albrecht Dürer and add it to it. But there is one teeny little problem. It's when they're dry, some are smooth, some are not. So like this green is smooth, but then I would notice like, I would have a few that are scratchy, but nothing like the other ones. So my plan with this Stabilo set is I'm actually going to go through my Albrecht Dürers, because those are my babies and that's what I use all the time. I'm going to take a look at these swatches, and any colors missing from my Albrecht Dürer, I'm actually going to pull out of this set and add to it, like this color right here, Faux Show, because it's gorgeous and I don't want to leave it behind. So it is a set that I would still say, hey, you could buy this one, but it's just not going to make the top 3. So it's kind of sad that it falls into this video, but I am trying to whittle down the list for you guys, and well, I've got to whittle it down because I swear it's over 30 pencil sets. Last but certainly not least is one that may surprise you, because if you've watched my channel long enough, you know I'm a Prismacolor gal. However, I feel the Prismagods definitely betrayed me when they invented whatever the heck they want to call these. These are by far the worst watercolor pencil I could have imagined using in my life. And it pains me to say that because right over there is a bunch of Prismacolor Premiers that I buy open stock in bulk all the time, including a brand new 150 set to add to my open stock because I love them so much. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna love their watercolor pencils. I do not. There is not a single thing I like about these. I mean, let's talk, all right? First, the barrel gives you a freaky reminder of the colorless blender, so there's that fun. They do have a color code and a name, which is always nice. They sharpened well, but that's about where it all ends. I've actually used these in a live stream. You may have seen it. This case is ridiculous, but I'm not like marking it down for the case. It's just kind of one of those, what the heck is going on in here? But if you buy the Premiers, Prismacolor Premiers in smaller sets, this is how the case is too. That said, as you can see, I've sharpened them. I've tried to use them. Ugh. These are horrible to use dry, scratchy and weird, and have a tugging sensation. A tugging. Like, that is the only way to describe it. Like, normally when you use a Prismacolor, it's creamy and soft and buttery, but these, like, have some funky thickness that literally, like, tugs. I don't know how else to describe it. It was not pleasant. And then when you're using them dry, I noticed there was dust, which is normal with Prisma if you're too harsh with them. But you don't want dust on a page where you're doing watercolor, because if, say, you know, I put my color here, but some dust, you know, lingers over here, and I go to activate it, guess what happens? That dust has now just mixed with whatever over here. Not fun. Sometimes you can fix it. So dry, they were not pleasant to use, but wet, they weren't either. And I had quite a few that didn't even activate. Say hello to indigo. Well, what is that? Violet blue. Again, can you see those lines? Mulberry, the lines. Ultramarine, I even tried going in. Can you see how I went in different directions? I was like, come on. True blue, it didn't want to activate. Now, the ones that did activate had a nice color payout. I mean, that Copenhagen is by far a color I'm like, ooh, that is stunning. Very thick and pretty, but a lot of them didn't activate. And then I was sitting here thinking, goodness gracious, what's going on there? And I've asked a few other people who had indigo. They said they had the same problem with their indigo, which is sad, but then I look at the color range and I think, you know, this isn't a bad color range. It's not in order, but the problem is you got 36 colors and we do have a few that are too close. Again, waste with a white. But we've got these 2 yellows. One's warm, one's cool, but still in a 36 count set, that kind of sucks. You've got a light peach and a cream, which are great, but, you know, only so much you can do there. Their mulberry color, I would rather take the Stabilo one. Their crimson red, however, is decadent. But it took me a lot of pigment on the page to get this. And then, like I said, I was lucky if some even activated. So I will not be recommending Prisma in any of my videos. Now, Prismacolor Premier, hands down, the only pencil I'll ever say I recommend all the time. Now, their Premier Watercolor, I won't even touch these with a 10-foot pole. Especially with the activation issues. And just because I'm analyzing, oh, sorry for the traffic you're about to hear. I analyze these pencils not just wet, but dry. Because that's why if you go back, and definitely go back and watch my top 3 artist grade, A big thing I emphasize is how are they dry, because you want to be able to use a pencil wet, of course, but sometimes you want to go over and do details with the dry pencil. Sometimes you just want to color with that pencil dry and have a 2-for-1 situation, which is what I get with Albrecht Dürer. They're great wet, they're great dry. You don't have to activate them and they still perform beautifully. So that's something to keep in mind, and that's something I test, whereas, well, you know, like a lot of these failed on the dry test, or they failed on the color selection, or the pricing, or just the way they're created, like the Spectrum Noir with a purple and pink throw up session. But I'm like, I don't need that many purples and pinks in my, because then what happens when I get the neutrals? Am I going to have like 24 browns? I don't need that. So it's things like that. Everything is just a little thing, but those little things, unfortunately, when compared to all of the other brands in this monster comparison, these guys just won't make it, and that's just a sad fact. However, I am doing a big adult coloring supply destash here very soon. I am starting to go through all of my supplies, slowly but surely. I may actually stream it on Sunday if I can get everything together, and then I will have a list. So some items will be given away for free. Others you will have to buy off of me, because there are some that will be like, it's not just like these pencils here. I have my other colored pencils, I have background mediums, I have all sorts of art mediums, watercolors. I'm destashing a lot, and why? I'm going to make a video on that, but I'm destashing a lot of things, so maybe I'll get to it this Sunday, but keep that in mind. So if you like the Prismacolor Premiere and want to snag the box for cheap, you'll find it in the destash coming up soon-ish. Like I said, I can't guarantee it'll be this Sunday. Lots going on, but it's coming around soon. So yeah, unfortunately, these are the sets that I cannot recommend, or will never make a top 3 list, because that's what I basically do, right? I create my little top 3 lists, and then I show it to you guys, and yeah, these just won't make it, which does suck, because like I said, some of these aren't too shabby. The Stabilo is the one that was the hardest for me. I will do a comparison, Crayola to Pentel. Let me know if you want a specific comparison in the comments below. That always helps as well. I am working on the Bougie Budget top 3, which is basically Color, Castle Art, Arteza, those categories. You know, the companies that are budget, because they are not artist grade, but they're not really budget. So they will be in there. But thanks for hanging out with me for another video. I hope you're doing well, and until next time, take care. Bye now.